Is the UK about to go into an economic, currency and political crisis? That's going to be the topic of today's video. So the UK is going to elect a new leader soon after Boris Johnson announced he was going to resign. And a lot of people are asking, including some of my British expat clients, is it likely that the pound's going to go into a tailspin and so on and so forth? So I'm going to answer that question on today's video. And before doing that, if you are an expat or a high net wealth individual, go over to adamfire.com and see how I can help you. Now, on this video then, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about the current situation in the UK. It's a very uncertain situation. And the fact that a political leader has come and go, that's very normal. But I think what a lot of people are worried about at the moment is it seems to be a general malaise which has happened in the last few years. So you had the whole Brexit process. Whatever you think about that, it was a long process. It's still ongoing in some regards when it comes to the Northern Ireland Protocol and so on. In addition to that, you've had all the things that our countries have dealt with, like COVID and God knows what else, lockdown and so on. And now you have a situation where the UK, which already has an aging population and should be attracting foreign direct investment into the UK, is thinking about increasing taxes on corporations. Or it could happen where there are a lot of, sweeteners given to the electorate by the new leader. So whoever wins, maybe not if it's Rishi Sunak, but if it's most of the other candidates, probably people are going to get tax cuts, and it might happen where people are given incentives and cash to kind of help them pay utility bills and so on and so forth. And the fear is that if this carries on, the UK could go into a currency crisis as well as a political crisis and so on and so forth. Now, obviously nobody knows the future. Nobody can know for sure what's going to happen in the future. And I'm not going to predict the currency crisis right here, right now. What I will say though is the UK's currency, sterling, does look much more at risk than historically has been the case. I was reading a good analysis. It was on CNBC, and I'm not usually a huge fan of theirs, but one good analysis they did was a gentleman who spoke about the fact that the British pound now should in many ways be considered like an emerging market currency, that it could be very volatile, could go up or down. And the reasons given were pretty strong. And obviously you've got a situation where the Federal Reserve are increasing their interest rates, and that could bring about pressure on many currencies as it already is, like the euro and the yen and so on. And the British pound could become a prime candidate if something goes wrong when it comes to the UK's relationship with the EU. It seems to be the case there could be some kind of trade war or limited trade war. And even if something like that doesn't happen, given the UK situation at the moment, an aging population coming out of Brexit and many other issues, it seems like a huge mistake not to care about the budget deficit, because that needs to be financed. It also seems like a huge mistake to be absolutely skyrocketing taxes like corporation tax, which could actually bring in more revenue. So I actually think there is an enhanced risk that the UK could go into a currency crisis and therefore a political crisis in the next few years, but it's by no means guaranteed. But I think, as always, you just have to do what you can and diversify your wealth. And I wouldn't keep too much wealth, especially as an expat or someone who wants to diversify their wealth, in British pounds. I would keep as little as possible, unless you're actually saving up for something in pounds. If you really need money for a deposit, for example, to buy a house, that's a bit different, because a devaluation won't affect you quite as much in that case. But I would say, as I said in the last video, cash always loses to inflation, or at least it loses to other assets long term. But since the economic crisis of 2008, cash has lost a lot to inflation, and the British pound has been gradually depreciating since it hit 2 to 1 against the dollar in 2007. So it's by no means guaranteed that the British pound will go to 1 to 1 against the US dollar, and this depreciation will continue. We just don't know what's going to happen. But what I would say is it's actually a big risk to hold too much money in sterling in your bank account right now, especially if you're the kind of person who's living overseas as an expat and might actually be dependent on using some of that money. At least get some kind of income from that money, at least generate some kind of income from that money, which leads me to something else. And that's that one of the benefits of investing that a lot of people don't talk about is you're actually reducing your currency risk. Now, what do I mean by that? A lot of people ask me, well, does it matter what currency I invest in? Like, does it matter if I buy the S&P 500 in US dollars or euros or pounds? I've answered this question before on another video. The simple answer is no, because you're investing in the asset, not the currency. And that leads me to something now. If you go online and you look at, I don't know, the S&P 500 or MSCI World in, say in US dollar terms, and you look at the same fund in British pound terms, the equivalent fund, the returns in pounds have been higher for obvious reasons, right? Because the companies are actually earning revenue in foreign currencies, so that pushes up the value of the British pound fund or ETF. So here's the key point, right? If you invest, say, the money you have in a international fund, an internationally diversified fund like MSCI World or something linked to the US stock market or whatever, if the UK currency goes down 20 or 30%, and that fund is given, say, 5 or 6% in US dollar terms, all that's going to happen is you're going to make 10 to 12% per year in British pound terms, because the fund is actually, just recalibrating, right, for the currency loss. So actually, if you're actually worried about currency depreciation in any currency, not just British pounds, it makes sense to have a diversified international portfolio, because that way, by definition, you're investing in many different companies that are earning money in different currencies all around the world.